some toms. What's up, YouTubers? So I figured this would be a perfect opportunity for me to teach you how I tune my drums, especially my toms, because I need to swap out the heads. I just finished my first in-person camp in the last almost 2 years. So we had done 100 camps here, 10 years of 10 camps per year here at the Mike'sLessons.com studio. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and then we had to stop for almost 2 years. And then we just had Camp 101, and it was amazing, but the campers and me, I'll say we put the smack down on these heads. So these heads are toast. It's time to swap them out. And I've gotten questions from you guys really since the beginning of YouTube of like, how do you tune your drums? How should I tune my drums? And I just thought, okay, this is a perfect time. I've been on YouTube since 2005, 2006, and I've never done a tuning lesson. So let's get into it. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to take the head off and replace it with a new one. I do use a power drill for this. I don't use the drill to put the head back on. I feel like it's really hard to nail like when the tension rod's gonna actually make contact with the rim or with the hoop. So eventually you end up screwing it up a little bit, but I don't mind using it to take the drum head off. Just speeds up the process. All right, so once I have the head off, the first thing I do, especially on these older drums, this is a 1965 Gretsch round badge kit in progressive jazz sizes. First thing I do is I just feel around the drum to make sure that there's no splintering or no divots or anything like that. If there's anything that feels like an imperfection, I'm not gonna sand it because I'm gonna ruin the bearing edge, but I might take a block of paraffin wax or just a block of wax and lightly rub it around the edge just to fill in those imperfections. But in this drum, there are no imperfections, if you will. So I'm gonna take a new head. By the way, listen to this. Like, why is this head toast? There's no dents. It's a single ply head, but we actually didn't dent it too bad. It's just that we stretched the Mylar out in the middle. So the head, so this material is called Mylar, and it can stretch. And if you play it too much, it'll stretch out, and then the head just kind of loses its tone. If you listen, it's just flappy compared to a brand new head. I mean, it's not gonna sound like a drum, but there's some tone. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm holding the drum head up, it's because there's a microphone up here. So I'm gonna put this on, and then I wanna make sure that the head goes on evenly with these old drums. The wrap, this blue stuff, it's a wrap and it overlaps. And so what happens sometimes is you might not notice it, but the collar of the drum head will catch on that point where it overlaps. Then you put the hoop on and you tighten it down, and you end up just going into the wrap and kind of wrecking it, and it comes off the drum. So I'm gonna make sure that everything sits nice and even, and I definitely wanna make sure that my logo lines up. The logo of the head needs to line up perfectly with the logo on the drum, which it now does. And by the way, I've just got this sitting on one of these stools back here, and it gives me an easy thing to spin around. All right, so now that I've got that, I can place the hoop on it, try to get everything lined up as close as possible so I don't have to move it once it's there. And then, like I said, I'm not gonna use the drill for this. So for this part, I just go using my fingers and get everything finger tight, just so the tension rods are making contact. Once they are doing that, then we're in a place where we can start tuning. Now, one really important thing before I start showing you how I tune my toms is you need to make sure that whatever your drum is sitting on, that the bottom is being muffled. So the actual stool that it's on is about 12 inches, so it doesn't touch the drum head. So I used a practice pad, a reflex pad. I put that on there, and that way the bottom head is being muffled. So when I'm tuning the top head, or if I flip it over and tune the bottom head, I'm only hearing tone from one head instead of having two heads resonate, which makes it very difficult to tune. All right, I'm gonna start tuning now, and as I'm tuning, you'll eventually hear the drum head make contact with the shell. Right now, parts of the head are not contacting the shell, so I don't have a pure sound. This is all by feel and ear. We're almost there. We're there. All right, so now the drum is out of tune, but I've got a pure tone, so I know I've made contact. Now, what does it mean for a drum, especially a single head, to be in tune? It means that all of the tension rods are tuned to the exact same pitch. Now, every drum has quite a big frequency range that it can be tuned to, but I need all of these to sound exactly the same, and I'm gonna do it the best I can with my ear before I break out the TuneBot. You also might notice that I'm tuning pretty high. Two reasons for that. One, I actually like my 12-inch tom to be almost up to that jazz bebop level. I like it really tight, so that's just personal preference. It's not right or wrong. But the other reason is, and this is something you should be aware of, once I put this drum head or put this drum on my drum set and start playing it, the Mylar is going to loosen up a little bit. The glue is going to crack a little bit. Everything's going to loosen up and the pitch will go down. So I kind of start off higher than I normally would, knowing that it's going to loosen a bit. Now, if you can't tell, like they all sound the same, especially when you're sitting right in front of the drum, one of the things you can do is just put your finger in the middle of the drum. That'll kill the overtones. So from this to this, okay, so this one right here sounds quite a bit higher. So because I'm trying to tune up and I want a higher pitched tom, I'm going to tune everything to this the best I can. All right, so now I feel pretty good with that, and what I want to do is, remember how I said it's going to loosen up? I want to pre-do that as much as I can without having to play on the drum or beat the heck out of it. So one of the ways you can do that is just give it a little CPR. All right, so now we're going to get into something that's very personal, and I think will separate this from a lot of the tuning videos you might have seen. I tune the top head, obviously for pitch, I need it to be in tune, but I tune it mainly for feel. I want my drum set to feel a certain way. And so, like that right there, I like to be able to get a nice clean buzz stroke out of my rack tom because I like that feel, I like that rebound. I can control the pitch from the bottom head. So as long as I get the top head in tune and to feel the way I want it, then I'll go into the bottom head and dial in the pitch. So now we're at a point where I'm going to fine tune the drum with the TuneBot. I would suggest that all of you learn how to tune by ear. You do not need one of these. I think they should rename this the Fine TuneBot, because if you try to tune a drum from slack with this, it's going to be a rough day for you. So I get the drum as close as I can with my ear, and then I fine tune it with this. This also gives me a readout to let me know on a clinic or something, I want to have my drums tuned to this specific pitch, and I can just travel with this. I was close. I like to have my top head at 280, and I was at 283. I'm going to back this down just a little bit. Now we're at 280, so I press this button, and it'll make sure that the rest of the tension rods are at 280. Pretty close. Dead on. Dead on. Boom! Okay, so if we want the most resonance that we can get out of our drum, then we tune both heads to the exact same pitch. So let's try that and just see where that puts us. All right, so now both drum heads are tuned to 280 Hertz. I know I like my top head there, but like I said, if this drum sounds too high pitched to me, I'm gonna lower the bottom head. If it sounds too low pitched to me, I'm gonna raise the bottom head. I dig it. I'm gonna leave it exactly where it is. So 280 on top, 280 on bottom. This thing is not a necessity. Like I said, it's important to learn how to tune your drums by ear. I learned to tune by sitting in my room with a 10-inch tom or a 12-inch tom, and I would tune it the best I could to match the records that I was hearing. And that records, that makes me sound like I'm 6,000 years old. CDs, recordings, whatever. And then I would just undo the head and do it all over again. So I used to practice tuning, and now I can get my drum to sound the way I want it to sound. This is not how I need your drums to sound. I recognize that I tune my 12 a lot higher than most people. But the principles that go into this, it's all the same. Now, as far as, well, what could we have done different? If we tune that bottom head higher, we might get a little slight, the pitch would go up, but we would get like an upward pitch bend. So doom, and if we tune lower, we might get a little downward pitch bend. Doom. If the drum head is out of tune on the bottom, that's when you get that growl. Doom, and we do not want that. By the way, just in case you don't believe how important the bottom head is, let's just take the bottom head and we'll just undo one tension rod. Now it sounds like buttered ass, all because of one tension rod on the bottom head. All right, now let's swap over to my floor tom. I've got a brand new head on here, but it is slack, so it's just finger tight. Listen to it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna slowly start tightening up all the tension rods, and I'm kind of waiting using my ear to see when that drum head makes 360-degree contact with the bearing edge, which it's not doing yet. But you'll hear when it does. Almost there, almost there. There we go. Now we've got a pure tone. Pure is relative. I wouldn't say it's in tune, but we have a tone. Let's listen and see where this is at. It's actually not that bad. So once again, I like to tune for feel. I don't want my floor tom to be as bouncy as my snare or as my rack tom, but I don't like it to be completely dead either. So I want to come down a little bit. This seems a little high for me for my floor tom. All right, and like I said, if there's too many frequencies going on and you just can't hear, just put your finger in the middle. And that's pretty close. Let me see how the feel is. I like the feel, so I'm good there. Now I'm going to use the TuneBot to fine tune everything. Sounds pretty good. So I think I'm going to go with the bottom head at the same tuning just to get the purest tone possible. I might like that, I might not. We'll see what happens. All right, so let's see what that sounds like. What did I tell you? If you tune both heads exactly the same, you're gonna get a lot of tone out of your drum. I don't know that I like it. I'm just not digging it. I think I wanna bring the bottom head up a little bit. So I'm doing 150 on the batter head or the top head, and then 165 on the bottom head. All right, let's see what that sounds like. I'm digging that. That is beautiful. All right, so let's go throw both of these drums on the kit, because once we put them on the drum set, the way they sounded in this room with this ceiling and this carpet and 20 snare drums rattling behind me, it may not be the same as on the drum set. So once you get it on the kit, then you can fine tune some more. All right, so we're back on the kit. Now keep in mind, I'm only using a single overhead mic. This is all I have to capture sound. Obviously there is a microphone in front of my bass drum, but it's not gonna capture any of the sound of the toms. So let's see what we've got so far. It's good. I feel like I might have gone a little too high on the rack tom. I'm gonna bring it down just a tiny bit. I feel good, and that's the most important thing, is how do the drums feel to me? Obviously, I want them to be in tune. I want them to sound great, but I also don't want to sacrifice my enjoyment on the instrument. And I think that that's my biggest point to you, is obviously you want to get your drums in tune, but keep in mind, you want them to be fun to play as well. And that's a really key, important part to tuning, is you're changing the tension of the drum. And if you go looser and looser and looser, they become less responsive and they might not be as fun to play. It really depends on your genre of music and your style of drumming. But for me, this is perfect. These are not the way your drums should sound. I said that earlier. This is how I want my kit to sound. I want you to experiment with your drums and learn your drums inside and out and care about the bottom head and how much it changes the tone of your drums. And last but not least, form a bond with your drum set. The more that you work on tuning and you swap heads and you get on the inside of the drum and you look for little splinters, you make sure all the little bolts are tight and then none of the washers fell off, the more you do that, the more that you and your drum set will have a connection every time you sit down it. So I hope you got something out of this, and I will see you guys next time.